I had booked the remote cabin Airbnb as a surprise birthday getaway for my best friend Erica. She had just turned 30 and was going through a tough breakup, so I thought a weekend trip to the mountains would be the perfect escape. When I pulled up the long dirt driveway and saw the charming log cabin nestled amongst the pine trees, I knew I had made the right choice. It looked like something straight out of a storybook, with a quaint covered porch and rocking chairs overlooking the surrounding woods. Erica was thrilled when we arrived. "This place is amazing," she exclaimed as we hauled our bags upstairs to the bedroom. The inside of the cabin was even cuter than the outside, all polished wood floors and rustic chic decor. It somehow felt cozy and spacious at the same time. We picked out beds, then headed back downstairs to the adorable kitchen to uncork a bottle of wine. Later that evening, we threw a couple of logs in the giant stone fireplace and settled into the worn leather couches. The flames flickered shadows over the walls as we chatted and sipped our wine. Over the crackling fire, I suddenly thought I heard a thump come from upstairs. I paused and listened closely, but all was silent again. Erica headed up to bed a few minutes later. I stayed behind to tidy up and make sure the fire was safely put out. As I placed the fireplace screen back in position, a cold breeze unexpectedly whooshed down the chimney, extinguishing the last glowing embers in the fireplace and plunging the room into inky darkness. I found my way upstairs by the thin beam of my phone flashlight. I awoke with a start a few hours later. The loud snap of a tree branch breaking outside my window had jolted me upright in bed. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I suddenly noticed a hazy, human-shaped shadow in the corner of the room by the door. I gasped and fumbled for the bedside lamp, but the shadow quickly vanished as the room was flooded with light. My heart pounded as I scanned the room and saw nothing there. Then I lay back down. The following day over breakfast, I asked Erica if she slept because I heard some weird noises, but she told me she slept well and did not hear noises. We spent the day hiking to a nearby waterfall and enjoying the beautiful scenery. The hike tired us, so we returned early that night after watching a movie. Erica headed upstairs while I lingered in the den, finishing my glass of wine. The dying embers in the fireplace suddenly exploded in a shower of sparks, right as the TV screen inexplicably turned to static and let out a shrill whine. I jumped up and ran to unplug the TV. The room was once again shrouded in shadow. I grabbed my phone and hurried upstairs, nearly sprinting down the dark hallway to my room. I dove under the covers like a frightened child, and it took me a very long time to fall asleep that night as I lay there straining my ears, listening for more odd sounds. Sometime in the deepest part of the night, I stirred at the sensation of the mattress dipping near my feet, as if someone were sitting on the end of the bed. I blearily opened my eyes and nearly screamed. The shadowy figure was back, hovering silently at the foot of my bed. As I thrashed in terror, it slowly raised one long black finger to where its lips would be in a hushing gesture, before fading away into nothingness. The next morning I shook Erica awake, hissing, "We need to get out here now." She was confused about why I was so freaked out. I told her what I had seen and heard the past few nights, but she just laughed it off, telling me I always had an overactive imagination and we should enjoy our last day. But I couldn't shake the creeping dread I felt. I knew we were not alone here. I could literally feel eyes watching me all day, though I never saw anything. Erica chalked up my jumpy behavior to too many scary movies, but she hadn't heard the mournful cries that echoed through the halls late at night. She hadn't seen the shifting shadows lurking at my vision's corners. That night I begged Erica to leave early in the morning and cut our trip short. She reluctantly agreed after seeing how terrified I was. We packed our things and locked ourselves in the bedroom. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying for sunrise, as strange voices whispered to me from the darkness. Finally, the first pale rays of light peeked through the curtains. We threw our bags into the car and sped the dirt road away from that cabin. The whole time, my skin crawled with the sense of being watched through the trees. I glanced back at the little cabin, now just a speck in the rearview mirror, and swore I glimpsed the silhouettes of several ghostly figures standing in the windows watching us leave. I was so excited to get away for a weekend trip. I finally found a cute little Airbnb cabin in the woods that looked perfect for a peaceful weekend of hiking and relaxing. After a long week at work, I couldn't wait to unwind. The drive to the cabin was scenic and peaceful, and I felt more relaxed with each passing mile. Before long, I had arrived at the address listed in my Airbnb reservation. The cabin was just as adorable in person as it had looked online. It had a charming stone exterior and a cozy wooden interior. The owner had left me a lovely welcome note and a basket of snacks and brochures for area attractions. After getting settled in, I decided to fix myself some dinner. The kitchen was quaint but had everything I needed, including some cookware and utensils from previous guests. I whipped up a simple pasta dish and enjoyed it outside on the cute little back deck as the sun began to set. Exhausted from the drive and the week, I decided to turn in early. I got ready for bed and settled under the covers with my book. The bed was so comfortable and the cabin so quiet and peaceful. Before I knew it, I had drifted off to sleep. I woke suddenly to the sound of a baby crying. It sounded distant but clear, like it was coming from inside the cabin. I looked at my phone. It was a little after midnight. I listened closely but couldn't hear the crying anymore. I must have dreamt it. I tried to go back to sleep. Just as I began to doze off, I heard it again, the distinct wail of a baby somewhere downstairs. Listening intently, the crying continued in intervals, sometimes soft and distant, other times louder and more intense. There was no doubt now that I was really hearing a baby crying somewhere in this cabin. I sat up in bed thinking of what to do. The crying persisted downstairs, occasionally erupting into shrieks before fading to a soft whimper. I crept slowly out of bed and picked up the old wooden baseball bat I had seen in the bedroom corner, just in case. Holding my breath, I tiptoed out of the bedroom and onto the landing overlooking the living room. I listened again. The crying was clearly coming from downstairs, but I saw no one. I called out to see if someone was there, but only the crying answered. I tightened my grip on the bat and made my way slowly down the stairs, one step at a time. The crying grew louder as I descended. It was coming from somewhere down the hall toward the back of the cabin. I shouted into the darkness, trying to sound intimidating despite my racing pulse, but there was still no response except that pitiful crying. I reached the bottom of the stairs and flipped on the light, but no one was there. Yet the crying continued, loud and clear, like an infant in distress. I followed the sound down the hall, bat still raised, until I reached the back bedroom. The cries were coming repeatedly from inside. With shaking hands, I flipped on the light. "Hello?" I whispered. The small bedroom was empty except for some boxes and furniture covered with sheets. The cries suddenly stopped. I stood frozen, listening, but there was total silence. I tore through the room looking for the source of the cries, but there was nothing and no one there. I ran outside to see if someone was hiding in the cabin, but found only darkness and wood. Back inside, I checked every closet, under every bed and sofa, but there was simply no explanation for the vivid cries I had heard. I sat awake until the morning, bat still in hand, but the cries did not return. I ended up leaving the cabin early, still rattled by the experience. I told the owner what had happened, but she seemed unsurprised. The owner said to me that other guests had also reported hearing a crying baby in the night. She thought the cabin might be haunted but hadn't wanted to scare people off from renting it. I shook my head in disbelief as I drove away. A haunted Airbnb was definitely not what I had bargained for when I booked my relaxing weekend getaway. I won't ever forget those chilling cries in the night that turned my trip into a terrifying ghost story I'll be telling for a long time. If only I had checked the reviews more closely, I could have spared myself the horror of a haunted holiday rental. I'm 27 years old and still living at home with my parents in North Carolina. I never imagined my life would turn out like this, stuck in a dead-end job, unsure about my relationship and constantly stressed. My mom and I have been fighting non-stop lately, and I just needed to get away for a weekend. I found a cute little one-bedroom cabin up in the mountains that I could afford, so I booked it on Airbnb for a peaceful solo vacation. The drive up to the cabin was tranquil and calming. I was already feeling better being away from everything. When I arrived, the cabin looked like the pictures, a cozy little A-frame with a small front porch surrounded by trees. I unpacked my things in the quaint bedroom and got settled in. I made dinner in the cute little kitchen that first evening and ate out on the porch. The fresh mountain air was rejuvenating. I spent the rest of the night reading on the porch swing before heading to bed. The following day, I woke up feeling more refreshed than I had in ages. I decided to go for a hike on a nearby trail. The hike was beautiful and peaceful, just me alone with nature. When I got back, I was thrilled to see a deer grazing in the yard right by the cabin. This place already felt magical. I spent the rest of the day relaxing, reading and journaling on the porch. The cabin had no TV or internet, which was perfect for an unplugged weekend. As dusk set in, I cooked another simple meal and enjoyed the quiet solitude. Before turning in for the night, I decided to take a bath in the clawfoot tub. The hot water soothed my muscles after hiking. Once in bed, I heard some strange noises outside in the dark. It sounded like heavy footsteps on the front porch. I convinced myself it was just a forest creature and eventually fell into a deep sleep. I woke up to dawn's early light with the sound of birds chirping outside. As I rolled over to look at my phone on the nightstand, I was startled to find it missing. In a panic, I jumped out of bed. My clothes from yesterday were also gone. I opened the bedroom door slowly and saw that the cabin had been completely ransacked overnight. All of my belongings were strewn across the floor. The kitchen drawers were emptied out, and the couch cushions tossed everywhere. Someone had clearly broken in and gone through everything. Terrified, I realized I didn't have my phone to call for help. The landline on the wall was dead too. Then I spotted a handwritten note on the kitchen counter that turned my blood cold. The note was written, "Thanks for the cash. I left your phone in the woods for you to find. Enjoy the rest of your stay." This was supposed to be my peaceful weekend getaway, and now I was trapped in the middle of nowhere being tormented. I felt so violated and afraid. I quickly threw on the only clothes left, what I had slept in, and ran outside to try to find help. As I hurried down the long gravel driveway, I heard a noise behind me. When I turned it around, I saw a dirty, menacing man staring at me from the porch. He had a crooked yellow grin and was holding a baseball bat. Absolute terror washed over me. I took off running down the road as fast as I could. I could hear the man's loud cackling behind me. After about a mile, the road came to an end, leading only into thick, untamed woods. Out of breath and sobbing, I desperately turned around, hoping the man hadn't followed me this far. As I made my way back, I saw no sign of him. Maybe he had left. I slowed to a walk, gasping for air. I still had a mile left to get back to the cabin and my car. When the cabin was finally in sight, it looked still and quiet. My car was parked where I had left it. Slowly, I crept inside the house, listening for any sound but silence. I grabbed my keys and bag off the floor and made one final dash to my car. My heart pounded as I locked the doors and sped off down the gravel road away from that nightmare cabin in the woods. I drove 15 miles to reach a small town where I could call my parents. As I gave the police my statement, all I could think about was getting far away from that horrific Airbnb as fast as I could. I hope they catch whoever did this and get them off the platform.